Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Sarah Davis, also known as the Barbell Queen. Today is a little bit different. This is the first video I'm gonna massively kind of upload and push since deciding I'm gonna really make a push of the channel again. So I figured it was important for me to discuss this one because it's not something I've discussed. We're pretty much just gonna roll with it, and I'm gonna chat to you because this is a question that I've had a lot since coming back from Tokyo, and people are like, how was Tokyo? You did so well, you must be so proud. And I have mixed feelings on that. I'm finally starting to process the feelings and move forwards, especially with the World Championships coming up. I leave 2 weeks from the time of filming this. So yeah, I thought I'd just sit down and talk to you all, and more for my, yes, you guys are going to benefit from this, but I think a lot of it for me is also for me to process it. I know some people journal and this and the other, but I'm not going to lie, English wasn't my strong subject at school. I'm not a writer. Mum always jokes about it, at school, we had primary school, we had to write a story about it snowing, and it had to have a beginning, a middle and an end. This is completely off on topic, but my story writing went as far as, it snowed, I built a snowman, the sun came out, it melted. That's a beginning, middle and end. That says a lot about how I sit and write. So yeah, it's not for me. Anyway, back to the topic in hand. How was Tokyo, Sarah? I feel like I'm interviewing myself. But I think before we get to actual games time, it's important to talk about the qualification process, which was obviously difficult for everybody in weightlifting. But I had some major personal life changes along the way too. So Olympic qualification started November 2018 World Championships in Turkmenistan, which is literally a lifetime ago, which meant that obviously for us it was a three-year qualification process, and yeah, when I started that process, it was in a position where it'd be really cool to go to the Olympics. I'm gonna give it my best shot to qualify, not knowing I'd end up in the position I was in with a medal chance. So yeah, in terms of when I look back at it now, that's pretty damn awesome that I got from kind of it'd be nice to go to I got a silver medal weight on the bar. But that performance was good. I got PBs at the time, established myself as the best 64 kilo lifter. Obviously me and Zoe have been head to head for my whole career, basically. So yeah, that was cool to establish myself there. No qualms, got myself on the rankings, and that was that. And then we moved forward into the Europeans 2019. Again, good competition, I was happy. Got pipped from a medal by Zoe. But it was a good performance. That was the one where I passed out and the doctor had my legs shaking them as I'm laid on the floor and kicking me in the bum. But yeah, so I was happy with Europeans. I was in a good position in the rankings. And then summer 2019 happened. Wow, what a ringer that was. So bearing in mind when I went to that Worlds and Europeans in 18 and Europeans in 19, I was in the middle of planning a wedding. I was planning to get married in November 2019, and in May 2019, that man came home one day and just said he didn't love me anymore, and that was that. Anyway, it all transpired that there was somebody else. But yeah, as you can imagine, when you've been in a relationship for 8 years with somebody and you're planning a wedding with them, and you're also in the middle of Olympic qualification, and 10 days out from another Olympic qualifying event, that's not what you need to do. Oh, my mum was really poorly at the time too. She's cool now, but yeah, she was about to go in for major surgery to have a full hysterectomy because she had been diagnosed with cancer for the second time. So the man really picked his moments. Bearing in mind, he was a weightlifter too, right? Apparently he's still trying, but so he gets it. He knows what the qualification's like, and chose to do that 10 days out. The British International, so it was a qualifying event, and yeah, it was, because it was so close to the British and because it was such an important competition for me, that literally kept me focused. I just trained. I didn't have to worry about making weight because everyone knows that the heartbreak diet is a thing, and the weight just fell off, and somehow I still snatched a British record. In fact, if you ever want to watch that snatch like session between me and Zoe was mad. I think the British record fell 3 times within 3 lifts. So yeah, I snatched 101, ended up 123, went for 127 to try and beat Zoe, and I just lost my focus, and my back foot slipped on the jerk. But yeah, an interesting competition, a good one for the rankings. He was also there, which made it a whole different debacle, and quite stressful. And yeah, it was only after that competition that the reality hit and the wheels fell off. I must have ended up at about 62 kilos, and just didn't know what to do with myself. Which is then when I rang Travis Mash and was like, Trav, I need to get out. Can you host me? So I went and trained in America for 6 weeks. Had a great time. You know, went a little bit crazy. Did some hard training. Enjoyed myself. Did some touring of America. I need to go back. I miss all my American friends so much. They are like family to me. They got me through the most horrendous couple of months. You know, at the time I wasn't really ready to talk to everyone about it, but they knew a little bit about what was going on, and you know, those people at that time will have no idea on how much of a difference that actually made to me. In fact, there's so many people that got me through that time. I mean, my best friends, those of you that follow me on Instagram will know that, you know, I lived with friends for a little while. They looked after me. They kept me sane. They kept me weightlifting. Without Dan and Steph, I don't think, well, I know I wouldn't have made it to this Olympic Games. I know I wouldn't have done the performance that I did. I'm going to try to not get emotional, but it's not happening. I was like, when I sat down to record this, I was like, Sarah, don't cry while you film. I'm not sure that's a good look, but yeah, I'm going to be completely open and honest with you guys. So yeah, they took me in so that I could keep training, and I didn't have to move back home. Like, I love my parents, but there's no way I could have moved back home. You know, there's training facilities over there, but it's not the same as like where I was and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I owe a lot to those guys that kept me going. And you know, when I went out to America and stuff, and I had the World Championships in the September, because we're in the middle of Olympic qualification. So yeah, July, came back home mid-August and had Worlds in the September in Thailand. 2019, my performances, because I had Worlds, and then I went to China as well in December 19. My performances were okay. They weren't anything spectacular, but they were enough to keep me like consistent in the rankings. You know, where I would have liked to have got better totals every time, they just kind of stayed steady for Thailand. China, I bombed out. I found out more stuff around my last relationship, and travel wasn't great, and then I have a period plus travel to try and make weight 48 hours after I landed. Like, it was just, yeah, that competition was not the one. I went to Rome in the January. That competition was all about getting back on the platform and enjoying being back on the platform, which I did. I had a great time. I nearly died on my second snatch. I went for a little ice skate and a slide and nearly ended up on the centre referee table. So that was fun. Got myself a good total on the board again. You know, didn't win any medals, wasn't expecting to, and just reset the brain a little bit. Side note, came home from Rome, thought I just didn't feel great because I'd, you know, partied and enjoyed myself after I lifted. I think on reflection I probably had Rona, as did the whole of Team USA, because they were pretty sick too. But it was before, like, it was massive, and then it was only once we got back that Italy started spiking and we all kind of actually knew what coronavirus was. I was quite poorly when I got home, but not like hospitalised. I just thought I had the flu. So I took a couple of days off training, went back to training most definitely sooner than I should have done. But like I said, we didn't know then. Isolation wasn't a thing. I mean, I was training around Cyril, who's like, well, he wasn't quite 80 then, but like 80 years old, and you know, had like illness and stuff before that would make him vulnerable. And yeah, I mean, everyone was okay, so that's all that matters. And then obviously we went into lockdown, which was a spanner in most people's Olympic qualification. At the time I was living in a 1-bedroom flat, no, a 2-bedroom flat on the first floor, sorry. And I was like, you know, I'll just, when we found out we were going into lockdown, I was like, I'll just take the squat racks home and some weights, and I'll just squat at the back of the living room for a week or whatever and just keep my strength up. I'll be alright. And I remember my friends Dan and Steph, the ones that took me in 2019, Steph was like, don't be so ridiculous, come home. I'm like, first of all, it's not my home, right? But I'm so glad I did, because it was basically the deal of I'll take the weights, they provide the garage and the space to train in. Trained with Dan in the garden and in the garage. The weather definitely helped. Having the dog there definitely helped too. Those of you that follow me on Instagram will know who Hector is. He's incredible, he's beautiful, he's my giant floofy smooshy face. He's not actually my dog. People seem to think he's my dog and he's really not. So yeah, being around them definitely helped through lockdown. And I remember at the time, we were still thinking that the games would go ahead and then the delay of the games, I found out at the same time as the general public. In fact later, because it hit mainstream news and I hadn't seen it, and it was actually a text from my mum that told me. Obviously I wanted to check that it wasn't fake news. But yeah, I remember me and Dan were just sat in the living room chilling because poor Steph was starting to work from home from the kitchen table. And we were just chilling. He walked out to go and get a drink or something and walked back in, and I was just in floods of tears. He was like, what on earth happened? I was gone like 2 minutes. Yeah, it was only at that moment that it really hit me that the games was delayed, and that, I guess selfishly, how big the whole problem was. I think we all had a moment that made us realise, how big it all was. But yeah, that was lockdown. There's not much more to say on that really. It went on for a really long time. I was lucky to get back in the gym earlier than most people because we had the elite sport exemption because we were training for Tokyo. And yeah, that was lockdown life. So once I was back in the gym, I moved back home, got back into training, and it was quite good because there was no distraction. You could only train. That's the only thing that was open. So yeah, got myself back into training, got in good condition, hitting good training numbers. Before all that, I forgot a big point at the end of 2020, well September 2020, was I was appointed chair of the IWF Athletes Commission. So I applied to be on the Athletes Commission, ended up being appointed chair, and yeah, all hell broke loose. I did a video that went viral. You can find that on my channel. That was basically a plea to try and save weightlifting and stop the old guard from just ruining our chance of any further Olympics. So that's been quite a stress on my life since that point. We're getting to a point now where hopefully we'll see a change in the politics after the World Championships this December. But yeah, maybe I'll do another video on that sometime. Yeah, into the new year, weren't sure if the Continental Championships were going to go ahead. We're fortunate that the Europeans did, which we kind of only really knew from like 8 weeks out. We'd been kind of steady training, and then it's like, right, we've got 8 weeks, let's go, let's push. And yeah, that was a wicked performance. I took away 3 silver medals behind Loredana Toma, and got some PBs, became the owner of all 3 British records, and also came second best on Sinclair for the whole of women's category, again behind Toma. So pretty successful championships, and after that was kind of, we knew I was locked in a place, and kind of that was that. Going from that position in November 2018 of it would be nice to go to Tokyo, to finishing the Europeans, knowing I was pretty much secured my spot on that plane. That's why we took the jumps that I did. I opened quite light on clean and jerk, basically to secure the total. But yeah, my first attempt basically sealed up that total that I needed to make sure I was in the top 8 world rankings to secure my spot. And then after that, we just had a little bit of a play. And I went 6 for 6. You can't complain at a 6 for 6 performance at all. There was definitely more in the tank. And then from the Europeans to Tokyo was a tight turnaround. By the time we'd gone through lockdown and stuff and not competing, because obviously I had like 12 months of not competing, so I'd not had to bring my body weight back down to 64, so I'd put on a lot of lean mass. I had a DEXA scan, and I was something mad, like 14% body fat, I think, at like 67.5 kilos. So by the time I lost those 3.5 kilos, and when I got to Tokyo, I was definitely sub 10% body fat. And that tight turnaround and having to keep my body weight down and keep it like maintained lower definitely took its toll longer term on my body. And it's basically where my legs went when it came to showtime in Tokyo. Now let's get to Tokyo, because that's what you're really here for, and I've made you listen to all of that waffle in between. I remember Andy Callard saying to me, who's one of our national coaches, like, you don't know what it's like to lift at Olympic Games until you've lifted at Olympic Games. And you're like, but I've lifted at 2 Commonwealth Games, a bunch of Worlds, and, you know, Europeans and stuff. It can't be that different. It's different. You can't avoid knowing you're at the Olympic Games because there's Olympic rings literally everywhere you look. One problem that I've never spoken about, actually, and I'll talk about it now because it's a huge part of it, but yeah, my period should have come and pretty much be done by the time I competed, but things like stress and travel massively affect it, and it came the day before I lifted, and my worst days of my first 2 days of my period. So I woke up the morning of competition with the worst period pains, horrendous heavy bleeding. Sorry if it's too much information and you don't want to know, and with that comes a bit of a dodgy stomach. So that was fun all day, back and forth to the toilet before comp. I mean, I made weight okay. But yeah, wasn't ideal. And also, when you're in that stage and things are heavy, you're just conscious. So I was conscious for the whole of the competition of leaking or anything like that, which I know is gross, but hey, that's part of being a female. That's part of being a female athlete, and that's why I've never said anything about it until now, because I don't want people to think that I've used that as an excuse for my performance. I think, unfortunately, if you say stuff like that, like straight after a performance, people think you're just making excuses. But yeah, so that was first problem of the day. Second problem, as I started saying, like, you just can't avoid Olympic rings everywhere. Like, you're in the back room, on every single wall, there's scoreboards everywhere, there's extra cameras, like, all of that kind of stuff just gets in your head. I had a few moments where, like, I faced the corner and Andy just came and, like, held my shoulders, like, calm down, it's okay, it's just snatch, clean and jerk. Got my opening snatch, happy days. We opened a little bit lighter just because I could tell I was shaking in the back room, the coaches could. Just get a score on the board. That's all that matters realistically when it comes to your first snatch. It's not about what you start on, it's about what you finish on. And that group was so tight, it was so important to get a score on the board. Second snatch, missed it, which was a crucial attempt realistically when you look back at it. And then third attempt, got it, which was very important. There was a lot on the line for that one, so happy days, but I was one of the last ones to snatch 100 out of that group. I think there was like 6 of us on a 100 kilo snatch at half time, so it was tight and it was anyone's game. Clean and jerk warm up was alright, but when it's that time of the month, the thing that I find the hardest is setting my back tight, which obviously when you're doing heavy cleans is a massive thing. So I just screwed up my first attempt, quite frankly. There's no excuse for it. I just panicked and it sat me on my bum. Just wasn't meant to be. Second attempt, almost passed out. I definitely left the room with the bar on my chest, and I just heard Stu Martin, our team leader, just for some reason his voice just clicked me back out of whatever shadow realm I'd gone to, and held on to that jerk for dear life because I didn't want it coming down to my third one. And yeah, then I went and sat down in the back for a bit and just closed my eyes and sat on a chair. Basically just waited and let the coaches do their thing, and I was kind of sat like this, my head on the wall and my eyes closed. And I suddenly heard, "Sarah!" I was like, oh, better wake up. And Stu, I think it was frantically, went 131 for the bronze medal that can get beaten, or 133 secure a medal outright. I was like, what do you guys want? They were like, it's your call. I was like, well, 133 then. You know, I was strong enough in the build up to comp. I did big weights. I had cleaned 137 from the block. You know, the 129 that I did at the Europeans was an easy clean. I'd done 129 in the build up for prep camp, like 2 weeks out. So like 33 was a good enough call, and I don't think, you know, the result would have been any different with 31. My legs had just gone. I don't know if it was a long wait or a combination of lots of things, but that energy going through my body is the only way I can describe it. Was just like this pulse through my body standing at the back of that platform. I could just, like, I could feel my pulse in my little toe, because I knew what was on the line. set myself and I cleaned it. It wasn't the best technically in terms of the clean. I lifted my chest slightly, so I had to work a little bit, and yeah, it just wasn't meant to be. You know, a big thing for me when I started lifting, I said I wanted to be our first ever female medalist for weightlifting for Great Britain. Obviously that's not achievable now. You know, Emily got the medal in the super heavyweights, and you know, fair play to her. She had a good run for the competition. She came out with a silver medal, and it's done wicked things for her sort of status as an athlete, and also for the sport as a whole. So that's now a goal I can never achieve, which I think is like that hurt, that struggled. As much as I was, you know, happy for Emily to win that, it was hard for me to watch her win that in a way, because that's something that I wanted to do, something that I wanted to achieve, and I had that chance and that opportunity, and I guess I blew it. It's the way that I reflect on it. Realistically, it was just not meant to be, and I wasn't strong enough to do it physically, maybe mentally as well. But yeah, so I left from having the silver medal weight on the bar, but yeah, I came 5th because of the way it works out with who makes the total first. So that was that. People ask about the whole experience for Tokyo, and like prep camp was tough because it was like serious like lockdown, so the Team GB didn't want to break out in camp, so they were really strict with all that kind of stuff, and there wasn't much we could do. And because we were an indoor sport, like we went to training and back again. I remember talking to the rugby lads, and they were like, oh yeah, we took cricket set down and we just had a knockabout and at training, which is obviously fine because they're outdoors, but for us it was like indoors all the time, apart from like 7 till 10 we could go and walk around this tiny little square outside. So once we got into the village, it was a little bit better. You could move around the village a lot easier, obviously with masks and all that kind of stuff. But everyone got kicked out of the village 48 hours after their competition. I think that was probably part of the hardest thing of processing the games and my result, because, and it's nobody's fault, but because Team GB is so successful as a team, if you don't come back from comp day with a medal, nobody cares. You don't really get a well done because you're not on anyone's radar, and obviously we've got so many athletes that are out there competing, and I can get it. But it's almost makes you feel as though you failed. Like in my eyes, I'd failed anyway, because I went there with such high expectations of myself to do well. And then to get that, or to get nothing when you get back, kind of sucks. I mean, when I got home, I didn't do any weightlifting for ages. I know I had time off. I did bits and pieces of like fitness and bodybuilding, and I went to the boxing gym. But in terms of weightlifting, I took some solid time off because I knew I needed to want to get back in the gym. There was moments when I thought I was done. I thought I was done weightlifting. I thought I'd never find that love again. Thankfully, my friends stopped me from quitting weightlifting, the same ones that stopped me from almost quitting back in 2019. So, and you know, my boyfriend was super supportive. He didn't try and say he gets it, because nobody can get it. But, you know, if I cried, he just held me. He made sure I had an incredible birthday, and that we went and did so many things, and saw loved ones, and saw friends, and saw family. And it was almost like a distraction tactic from myself. And then we came back from our holiday in September. I was like, okay, it's time to face reality. Like we've got to start properly training now. So just before we went on holiday, I knew that I had to start getting myself back into some sort of routine, because Worlds was coming. So that's when I started the Russian squat program, just to get my leg strength fully back. That was so hard to judge, because I knew what I'd done before, and I knew that my strength would come back quickly once I started training again. But obviously I wasn't in that kind of shape, so trying to judge my 1 rep max to base it all off was tough. But yeah, my strength came back pretty quick from that. Like week 1 was killing me, week 2 was pretty tough. By the time I got to week 4, I'd pretty much found my groove. I didn't test it at the end of the 1 rep max, because there was no point. Like I don't gain anything from that, especially being so close to Worlds. And by the time I got to that point, I'd already started adding lifting back in, and you don't want to kill your CNS off while you're still when you're trying to add the lifts in and build those back up. So yeah, at the point of filming this, I'm 3 weeks out from Worlds tomorrow. So I don't know when this will actually go live, but yeah, 3 weeks out, and I'm feeling good. Like, I'm not putting any real pressure on myself to perform for Worlds, but it'd be nice to be back in like the shape I was in. I know I'm in the heavier weight class, but to be up at those kind of numbers I did in Tokyo, maybe a couple of kilos more and some PBs and some British records would be nice. It'd be nice to break that 130 mark on clean and jerk, but my main goal is to go back out onto the platform and just enjoy being there and not have to worry about hitting certain totals for qualification, like, because that's been all it has been on the platform for the last 3 years, is hitting numbers for qualification. So just to go out there, have fun. I've got no idea who's going to turn up in the 71 class, because it wasn't an Olympic class, so it was quiet, and now people might turn up, they might move. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But yeah, there's a rundown on my Tokyo qualification. I feel like it was a long one. If you're still here, thanks. If you've got any questions, drop them down below and I'll either get back to you or I'll make a new video if there's loads of questions around the same thing. But for now, that's me, Sarah Davies, Olympian. I even got the tattoo. Can you see it from there? It's upside down if I go that way. But yeah, so pretty proud to be able to call myself Olympian, wear this jacket. Despite my performance, it is onwards and upwards. We've got Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. I've got unfinished business on the Commonwealth stage. I want that gold medal so badly. I'm going to take you guys along for the journey. And then we're on to Paris 2024, and there's definitely unfinished business there. So stay with me, stay tuned. Please like this video, please subscribe to my channel, drop comments down below. Spread the word that there is now a weightlifter with a YouTube channel. And let's get weightlifting even more popular, even more loved. And yeah, until next time, guys. Bye.